And Adam, there's another aspect to sort of keeping a lot of oars in the water. And specifically, I'd like to talk about the relationship between Underdog and Rook, because this is, I think, a good object lesson for all of us. Can you talk about the relationship between those two movies as a case of a screenwriter taking his fate into his own hands?
Sure. I've been lucky in that I've been fortunate enough to be able to work on studio movies and independent movies. And one kind of, one hand washes the other. I wrote a movie called Underdog, which was a Disney movie about a flying dog based on a cartoon that was popular in the 60s. And an opportunity like that is great because it affords me a lot of freedoms. One, it keeps my foot in the studio world, which is a very important world to be a part of, and one that I'm grateful to be able to be a part of. But it also afforded me the freedom to be able to make an independent film that I wanted to make, that I was very passionate about, called Look. And a lot of times, you kind of have to make your own opportunities in this business. There's no real, there's no one way to do it. You have to blaze your own trail, you know what I mean? You just really have to be proactive. And so the opportunity that Underdog provided me was invaluable, because when I wanted to make this independent film called Look, which was a small introspective movie that was entirely shot with surveillance cameras. It's a movie about the things that people do when they don't think they're being watched. And
Some of what you were doing earlier this evening.
Right. But I got it made because I wrote the check with my Underdog money. So that was the most obvious example of a direct relation between how a big studio movie like Underdog can help me get a passion project made like Look.
And Jose, you're in the process of setting up your first movie as a director. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you talk? Because everyone on this panel has directed and you're about to join the club. Why do you think, and cover your ears, Zach, why do you think executives are so skittish about first-time directors, particularly someone like you? You have theater experience, you're an Oscar-nominated writer, you're not someone about whom they should, on paper, be nervous. Why do you think money people, generally speaking, are so skittish about first-time writer-directors?
I've been trying to figure that out for 5 years. I think it has to do with, I think one of the themes of the film that we just watched is fear. I think fear rules a lot of decision-making. I think it's at the bottom of all our personal anxieties about, the level of our talent and our worthiness as human beings. But I think that, the level of fear that people feel when they're handing over a check of $5 million to a first-time director is actually very understandable. I mean, it doesn't seem a mystery to me that a first-time director would have such a hard time. I've directed theater and I've directed some music videos and some shorts. And, from my limited experience, I know that the man or woman who wears that crown, a great deal of responsibility sits there. And if I were the person writing checks, I would think twice about, who's going to be that person receiving that money. I think to be, at the same time, a creative person, a person with strong willpower, a person with vision, a person who can articulate and be able to speak to the artists and the artisans that make a film. I think that's an enormous responsibility. And I think the people who write the checks are very afraid that they're betting on and investing in the wrong person. And I've had to fight to prove that I can be that person. It's a very difficult job these days. I think, as we all know personally, the film industry has contracted greatly in the last few years. And all the small houses that we'd go to make our independent film no longer exist. So I think money is tighter and fear is higher than ever before.
Can I try that one?
I think there's a very specific reason why buyers are afraid of writers turning into directors, and it has to do with the attitude that a lot of writers take as their motivation to be a director, which is they're trying to protect their script. I think by definition, if you are a writer who wants to be a director so that you can keep people from changing what's on the page, you're just doomed to failure. That's my personal opinion. The whole idea in going to production is to beat the page. That's the goal. You're trying to find what's living in between those words. And you have to be the kind of writer who is willing to take the assumption that what you wrote may not be the best possible idea for that scene, or the best possible line, or the best possible moment. And the way I found that out was, before I went to direct for the first time, I took a lot of producers to lunch, and I said, where are the landmines for first-time directors? And they told me. And then I said to them, okay, these are people I had worked with, and I said, what about me would scare you if I were going to direct a movie for you? And of course, you're hoping that they're going to say, nothing, you're going to be great. But they say, well, here's what would scare me about you, and then they lay it out for you, and then you make sure that you don't step in that landmine. But it all has to do, for me, with that mindset of being willing as a director to fire the writer, especially if that writer's you.
Because I wanted to direct my movies, and I ended up doing 21 pictures that I directed, all based on scripts I wrote. And I found that when I
And let's hit the
directed,
other number, Larry. How many produced movies is it total?
oh, well, forget about that, 46 movies.
Actually, 46.
A lot of them bad, don't worry about it. But, the ones I directed I liked, however. But the truth of the matter is, I wanted to say, I rewrote the scripts more when I directed them than anybody else rewrote them when they did my movies. I changed my scripts more because I had the power to do it. I was the writer, producer, director. Nobody saw the dailies. The studios gave me the money and went away because everybody at the very lowest budget area is ignored by the studio. They haven't got time to look at your picture. So if you're Zemeckis or Spielberg at the very top, you have freedom. At the very bottom, usually you have freedom also because they haven't got time to worry about you. So I did my own pictures any way I wanted to do them, and edited them and cut them and then delivered the finished picture. And if anybody wanted changes, I said, well, I didn't shoot that, so you can't have it. Even if I did, I lied. But the fact
Lying
is,
is important.
but I actually did change my scripts more because I like to do improvisations. I like to change the locations if I find a better location, and that leads you to change the script around. So I changed it a lot, and never thought about it because it was, it was my picture. But I want to add something else too. That people think that directors have total autonomy and it's so easy. This didn't apply to me because nobody ever bothered me, but most directors, if they're not at the very top of the profession, have the studio on their back all the time. Their production managers report to the studio behind their back. The cameramen report to the studios behind their back. They're fighting all the time. Many DPs don't respect the director. There's constant conflict all the time. The budget is going higher. They're falling behind on the schedule. And sometimes they have actors who are stars and push them around, and they have to take all kinds of humiliations. So don't think the writer is at the bottom of the totem pole. It's not true. It's just as tough to be a director, and you get pushed around just as much. And producers, they get pushed around by the studio too. Studio comes back, pictures over budget, takes away their points, takes away their percentages, takes away their salaries. They have to eat plenty of shit. So don't think the writer's the only one. In fact,
Daniel, do you want to jump in on this one?